for the national anthem, which will be sung by the university's oldest a cappella group, the Brown Jabberwocks. After the anthem, I ask you to remain standing for the invocation from Reverend Janet Cooper Nelson. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Brunonia, those who pray and those who listen while others pray. Let us pray together. Keeper of the chroniclers of earth, we turn a human page. We converge in honor and gratitude, knowing fully the blessing of these, the nearly completed, and we hold them close. Their dreams, their achievements, their vibrant souls, their resilient spirits, and their insistent aspiration. All of this has imbued College Hill in this season with color, with warmth, with animated, insistent justice, courage to prevail, even to shine, and the imagination to take up the architectural work, to envision, and even to begin to build here and to scale outward a new age of goodness. Each student's passage tells the story differently and anew. One of curriculum conquered, friendships forged, the importance of the love and support of family and teachers, those who wanted their good even when it was hidden from their eyes. Today we raise the voice of Brunonian honor to give thanks for these, your daughters and sons, and for the privilege of their time together here on College Hill, and for this university to have been their choice and to now be the threshold from which they set forth. They join others who are the hope of their generation. Here, rising stars in a yearning sky, they inspire and will need to enact great deeds. Bless and keep them. May they take to heart always, especially when life is hardest, our affection and our regard. May they find that together they have the capacity to transform all that needs transformation, to love and cherish all that needs to be protected, and to find an ecology of human life and of human justice that has a space for their work and within which they can make a space for the work of others. May they dance. May they dance together across the lines of identity and purpose, and not in silence or denial, but with a shared joy to a music that affirms human dignity, radiant beauty, and the worth of all with whom they share life. Because together, ever true, we know that they will live lives of usefulness and reputation. And for this university and for the world, we pray that they will ever be a blessing in the life of the world you love. Grace and keep them. Amen. Please be seated.
Hi, everybody. How's the sound? Okay? Okay, it's very strange up here, the sound and the echo, so I can't really tell, but I'm going to go with it's okay. So I want to welcome everybody. Good afternoon. My name's Maud Mandel. I'm Dean of the College here at Brown, and I'm really very, very pleased to welcome you to Brown University's annual Midyear Completion Ceremony. This is an occasion where we recognize the accomplishments of students who are expecting to complete their bachelor's degree this month. And so we fondly refer to you as the class of 2017.5. Let's give it up. So this event is a cherished tradition at Brown, which the Dean of the College Office has been sponsoring now for over 2 decades. The celebration today is not meant to replace, but rather to complement Brown's annual commencement, which will be held this year, as it always is, on Memorial Day weekend. In fact, you students who are now completing your degrees actually have not 1, but 3 opportunities to celebrate your Brown education. Some of you have walked in last year's commencement. We honor you again today. And if you choose, you may return in May to be feted yet again at our official commencement celebration. That day is actually your official commencement from Brown, and in fact, we do hope to see many of you again for that. Today, however, we take a moment to pause and celebrate all you have accomplished so far. For most .5ers, the decision to complete your education in December was never the plan. Some of you took a leave to pursue an opportunity that you felt you couldn't pass up. Some of you hit a challenge that required time away from campus to overcome. Some of you simply needed time away for personal, medical, family, or other reasons. And some of you transferred here from another school or came to Brown after other careers and life experiences. Whatever your pathway, I hope that you see today as an important milestone in your personal journey, one which you can celebrate, having completed this phase of your education before moving on to whatever is next for you. More than ever, the world into which you are graduating needs the deep thinking skills that you have worked to master during your years as a Brown student. And we really hope that you will take those skills and apply them to whatever you do next in ways that make tangible contributions to your families, to your communities, and to your surroundings. We really have every faith that you will, because those of us here with you today are mindful of all you have accomplished to get here and all that you will go on to do. I cannot wait to watch and see how that unfolds. So now I would like to continue our celebration today by turning the floor over to our first speaker who would like to commend you on your achievement, and that is Brown's 19th president, Christina Paxson. Thank you.
So thank you, Dean Mandel, and welcome everybody, students and family and friends. I am delighted to be with you here on this very exciting day. To me, the Midyear Completion Ceremony always feels like a little bit of May and December, and that's really nice. It's something we all need right now. Now, this being an occasion of marking the completion of your graduation requirements in a date other than May, I thought I might talk a little bit about timing. Not the time it took you to complete college, but rather how timing shapes us as human beings. Now, you may be thinking, wow, CPAX is in a really existential mood today. But don't worry, there's a relevant point here. And it's illustrated by the writing of a distinguished class of 1974 Brown alumna named Pamela Constable. She's currently the Washington Post bureau chief in Afghanistan and Pakistan. And Pamela wrote this really wonderful piece about her experience on College Hill for the Brown Reader. This is a collection of essays by 50 alumni writers put together for Brown's 250th anniversary. And she made an observation about the timing of events in her essay and how that timing intersected with the direction of her own life. She recalls, and it's sort of funny when it begins, she recalls lamenting that her time at Brown came shortly after the seismic upheavals of an era that was buoyed by real progress on civil rights, the cultural liberation of Woodstock, and also darkened by the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy, Kent State shootings, a number of other things. And she wrote the following. She said, "I remember feeling frustrated that at age 18, I had missed all the action. I had been born just 2 years too late to be part of the impassioned crusades of my era." Her timing was off, or so she thought. And of course, that wasn't the case at all. Vietnam protests and peace petitions were the staple of her 4 years on campus. Those events shaped her, and she put her passion to work as an award-winning journalist covering watershed events in hot spots around the world. So 4.5 years ago, give or take, it was your turn. And on a sunny or overcast or maybe very rainy day, depending on what year you started here, you arrived on College Hill to begin your own Brown journey, bursting with purpose and intellectual curiosity and excitement. Now, during those first few days on College Hill, if you think back, you heard numerous speeches, maybe too many speeches, several by me. And my guess is that most of you were too excited or maybe too exhausted from late night conversations with your new friends to remember much of what was said. So, let me remind you. When I spoke to you, and I'm speaking seriously now, I really wanted to inspire you to think just big picture about how your time at Brown would prepare you to tackle the world's most pressing challenges. So when I welcomed many of you to campus on September 1st, 2013, I talked about the qualities that you would come to appreciate at Brown. Among them, a fierce commitment to education and scholarship that could have long-lasting benefits to society. And I went on to highlight, among other things, climate change as an urgent issue that was being addressed here by faculty and students. So here we are, 4.5 years later, and the perils of climate change have grown only starker, with weather extremes and coastal flooding and coral bleaching and species under pressure. And research on climate change continues across the university. Just last month, 12 Brown students, including a 17.5er, returned from the UN Climate Conference in Bonn, Germany. This will continue to be a defining challenge of your time going forward. Now, I spoke to most of you again, or many of you again, at Convocation on September 3rd of that year. And then I talked about Roger Williams and the founding of Rhode Island. We were heading into Brown's 250th. And I talked about the lively experiment that shaped the Brown ethos of intellectual openness, diversity, and commitment to serving the public good. And I went on to note what was then a new challenge of the escalating violence in Syria and the sad segue from the promise of the Arab Spring to the horrors of war. So 4.5 years later, almost 500,000 people are dead. The conflict rages on. The wrenching plight of refugees just breaks our hearts. And filmmaker Sebastian Junger visited the Watson Institute just last week to screen Hell on Earth, his new documentary about the Syrian civil war. So reminders of these and so many other daunting planetary, geopolitical, and socioeconomic challenges that we face, they just arrive all the time. We're sort of hit all over the head all the time. Things coming in on their iPhones telling us about what's going on. The threat of war, broken notions of public service, bigotry and hatred that have gone mainstream, revelations of sexual harassment in the workplace, and democratic institutions under siege. Now, I don't want to get too depressing, but remember that these are actually the events that intersected with your time at Brown. And whether you realize it or not, they will forever shape your view of the world and your future actions. And on the strength of your rigorous liberal arts education, you are prepared. This is the good part. You are prepared to be agents of change for greater good, endowed with intellectual depth and flexibility, an ability to discern fact from fiction, an understanding of how current events are shaped by the past, and I trust a deep and true moral compass to guide you through some really difficult terrain that you're going to face. There is no wrong time to do the right thing, and there is no time for cynicism and inaction. This is your time now. Memorably, Pamela Constable noted in her essay that, and I'm quoting here, "At Brown, we felt safely ensconced in a carefree countercultural cocoon, free to criticize the university president, join a strike by cafeteria workers," yes, you can laugh at that one, break china laughing, or kiss the sky. And I suspect that all of you have felt a measure of those precious feelings, and by all means, take them with you as you go out into the world. And if I can offer you timeless words that resonate across generations, it would be these. At the March on Washington in 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of the fierce urgency of now, a passionate call to his fellow Americans and citizens of the world to take action on civil rights. So today, your now has arrived. It's here. And it's your time. And there is so much work to do. So what I hope you can do is go out and fix what needs fixing, share your wisdom, share your discoveries with your communities in the world, do what you love. And do all this knowing that we at Brown could not be any prouder of you for completing your degrees and for doing so on your own terms, in your own distinctive ways, on your own timetable. And that's, after all, a hallmark of surviving and thriving at Brown University. So congratulations and Godspeed. Thank you.
Now we're going to turn to the next part of our program, where we will hear from Maya Falstich-Hahn, one of the graduates, who will share with us her perspective on her Brown education. Maya is a Chinese-American from San Jose, Costa Rica. She's studying environmental studies with a focus in conservation science and policy, and also has a deep interest in food systems and food studies. During her time at Brown, she was a member of SCRAP, the composting club, and developed a love for turning food scraps into soil and back into food. She was also involved in the Swear Center as a social innovation fellow, a peer advisor, and I'm so very happy also as a member of the inaugural class of engaged scholars. Maya, please welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dean Mandel. Thank you all for being here with us today. Thank you for being here with us in this time, in this now. I'm gonna miss this place. I love Brown. I love the classes, the people, the trees on the main green, even the fake one. But There is one thing that absolutely bothers me, and once I started to notice it, it was actually very difficult to stop. We, brown students, don't look up before we cross the street. At all. You all know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that in-between class rush, after the 12:50 classes let out, before the 1 o'clock classes begin, and people are rushing into the road in between Fonts and J. Walter Wilson. We barrel straight into the street. We don't look up to see if there are cars coming. We're glued to our phones, glued to our friends' faces, glued to that next thing that we're running late for. And I'm just as guilty of this as anyone else. I realize, though, it's arrogance to assume that the world will just stop for us because we're in a hurry and we need to be someplace. And yeah, 99 times out of 100, we have a good reason. We have a great reason. We're running to print out our paper for a class on the philosophy of happiness. We're running to catch a bus to facilitate a workshop on climate change. We're running to meet our friend to practice a piece that we're performing on Friday. And yes, 99 times out of 100, cars stop. But this isn't a speech about traffic safety. This is about looking up. This is about pausing. Pausing to look the driver of the car in the eye, giving them a nod, giving them a smile. In our rush to get to the real world, we forget that we're already here. This speaks to something broader and deeper, something that moves beyond the Van Wickle gates. The danger of normalization. Normalization, the process of becoming normal. Normal, conforming to the socially accepted standard. How many times have you had or witnessed an interaction like this? Hey, what's up? How's it going? I'm busy. Busy but good. You know, busy but good. How are you? Good, same, busy but good. And it's great. Everyone's busy but good. Busy, doing good things. Busy is normal. Busy is normalized. But maybe it's also okay to be busy and good, or busy and not good, or not busy and good. So there's a man, and he's walking across a field, and he sees a tiger. He starts to run. He's running. The tiger's chasing after him, and he comes to a cliff. There's a vine going over the cliff, so he grabs it and starts to climb down. Just then, though, he notices that there's a tiger below him, too. And 2 mice come out of the cliff wall, start to chew on his vine. There's a tiger above, tiger below, 2 mice chewing on his vine, and a wild strawberry coming out of the cliff wall. The man plucks it and eats it. The poet Ellen Bass describes this moment. Oh, taste how sweet and tart the red juice is, how the tiny seeds crunch between your teeth. During my sophomore year, my friend and I decided to take salsa lessons. Kind of out of the blue, we had no dancing experience. It was the middle of winter, and every Wednesday at 7 p.m., we would bundle up and bike up to Alumni Hall, learning how to move our feet and our bodies. I'm not going to dance for you. Although my friend is now taking tango lessons like 4 times a week, so he's got the dancing bug. And we were terrible at dancing, don't get me wrong, but it was our strawberry. No matter how many midterms were chasing after us, no matter how normalized it was to just pay attention to the growling above and the growling below, every week we would dance the sweetness of that strawberry. Normal is dangerous. Normal makes us forget that there are other ways of being. It makes us forget that you can be not busy, that you can cook dinner with your housemates and not feel guilty about not doing your homework. Shout out to my housemates, they're wonderful. On the flip side, normal is also dangerous because when something falls outside the normal, it's deviant. People often speak of 0.5ers with an assumption of deviancy. We strayed from the normalized path. Something didn't go as planned. We're non-traditional. Something went wrong. But let's dissolve that story. It doesn't have to be wrong or right or not normal. It just is, and here we are. 4 years is a great amount of time to go through college. So is 3.5, so is 4.5, so is 5, so is 7, so is 10. let's also dissolve the normalized story of what it means to be a .5er. Not all of us here chose to take time away to have an adventure or develop our professional careers. Some of us had semesters of grief. Some of us worked hard to support our families. Some of us didn't leave Brown at all and stayed right here, going to lectures we weren't enrolled in, learning to move through this town as residents rather than as students. Some of us transferred. Some of us are coming back to college after being away for some time. And for some of us, we're graduating early, eagerly having flown through our classes. For some of us, our pauses were devoid of agency, forced upon us by normalized, conceptualized ideas of how students should think, act, and feel. And when people are forced into normalized boxes, injustice is born. I don't know all your stories, and I don't pretend to. Writing the speech was really, really difficult. For those of us who took time away, I don't know if leaving was a strawberry for you, or if coming back was, or if both were juicy and raw and bitter and sweet and sour and soft all at the same time. I don't know if leaving took more courage or if coming back did. I don't know your joys and your exhilarations, and I don't know your sorrows and your regrets. In the words of Mary Oliver, tell me your despair, yours, and I'll tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. What I do know is my own experience as a small person in this big school. And what I've seen is that if there's one thing people here are really good at, it's identifying and resisting injustice. We hold each other and our school accountable. We refuse to normalize behavior like sexual assault. When I first got here as a freshman, I couldn't stop smiling all the time because people here truly care about things. Like, shoot, the amount of heart and passion at this school is tremendous. Back in high school, it was really, really cool not to care about anything. Like, the less you cared, the cooler you were. And it got tricky when you had to pretend not to care about not caring. I've seen that apathy is the enemy of the good, and there is so much good here. People recognize that what is normal is not necessarily what is right. And often, the first step in resisting normalization is a pause. Pausing to look the driver of the car in the eye, giving them a nod, giving them a smile. Pausing to eat that strawberry. Pausing to feel with someone else, to let your jaw go slack with gratitude. Pausing as the last of the leaves fall before the first of the finals begin, to sit here and celebrate. I'd like to share one of my favorite poems by the Palestinian-American poet Naomi Shihab Nye. It goes like this. The Arabs used to say, when a stranger appears at your door, feed him for 3 days before asking who he is, where he's come from, where he's going. That way, he'll have strength enough to answer, or you'll be such good friends it doesn't matter. Let's go back to that. Rice? Pine nuts? Here, take the red brocade pillow. My child will serve water to your horse. No, I was not busy when you came. I was not preparing to be busy. That is the armor everyone put on to pretend they had a purpose in the world. I refuse to be claimed. Your plate is waiting. We will snip fresh mint into your tea. Congratulations, class of 2017.5. Now go forth, refuse to be claimed, and snip fresh mint into people's tea.
Thank you so much for those wonderful remarks. So it's customary at this event to have a Brown faculty member speak. And this year we are extremely fortunate to have us with Andre C. Willis. Professor Willis is the Willard Prescott and Annie McClellan Smith Assistant Professor of Religion and History here at Brown. Professor Willis's work focuses on Enlightenment reflection on religion, African American religious thought, critical theory, and democratic citizenship as it relates to religious categories of hope, recognition, and belonging. Now, as you may know, it is also customary at such moments to give a long academic biography of a faculty speaker by way of introduction and as a testament to their many achievements. And I think it may tell you all you need to know about Professor Willis that in his humility, he asked me to forgo all of that. So I will. But I will tell you that I have yet to meet a student member or faculty or staff colleague at Brown that doesn't think the world of Professor Willis, his work, and his heart. I count myself among that group. Please join me in welcoming Professor Willis to the podium.
Well, thank you, Dean Mandel. Wow, that was lovely. So here we are. I want to first extend a huge thank you. A thank you to staff members who don't get recognized frequently, the custodial buildings and grounds folks, the dining services people. Security and all the folk who make these events work, as well as any of my faculty colleagues who may be in attendance, although I don't see too many. President Paxson, Reverend Janet Cooper Nelson, Deans Mandel, O'Neill, Sister Maya right here, parents, guests, and finally you, mid-year completers. And I offer my most sincere congratulations to you point fivers. I see you, I celebrate you, I respect you, and the light in me honors the light in you. I salute you for reaching this important milestone. You did it. You did the thing. You had an opportunity given to you, and you took advantage of it, and you successfully completed that opportunity. Now, it's your turn to begin to extend this work and expand opportunities outside of this place. Now, as someone who studies religion, I've learned that humans generally gather on a wish. And when a community comes together to celebrate and recognize the achievement of its members, that wish is always bittersweet because a transition of some sort or another is involved. Let us be present to the love and support in this room at this time. And let us also bring awareness to the resonances of sadness, disappointment, and trepidation that always accompany transition. Now, I have 3 thoughts that I want to share with you about your special achievement today. It's very unique. You won't find yourself in this predicament ever again. Each one of my points, and I'm going to be very brief, revolves around our being drenched in community, that is, inside of human groups forged in hope and memory. The first point is a trite and kind of well-rehearsed cliche that community is important for collegiate success. You've heard this, and like all cliches, it's quite overworn, but I must say there is some truth in it. For it's not an easy task to earn a bachelor's degree from Brown. To do so You had to do much more than put in long nights at the sci-li or the rock library, scouring over some texts. You had to care about truth, small t, and you had to have the courage to grow, big G. You had to do both of these things, I might add, while living in close proximity with people very different from you. Now, to be successful juggling the academic requirements, all these existential challenges, and so forth, is an enormous task that required an open heart and an open mind. And in part, when you sit here and we honor you, that's what we're honoring. To celebrate this kind of, and honor this kind of courageous openness is to acknowledge what we call the ties that bind, and to affirm that you didn't do it all by yourself. From that first day that you set foot on this campus, you carried hopes that had been placed in you by others. Now, we have a gospel tune that describes how you may have felt that day. It's called "Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child, a Long Way from Home." But you made strangers into friends. You began to give your gifts and shine your light. And you created communities. You took the risk to rely on somebody, and somebody took the risk to rely on you. Of course, human communities, like all human relationships, require persistent mending, for human beings are pathetic creatures who tend to disappoint. And if you look back at any community or family long enough, their story will appear as a history of collective despairs, disappointments, difficulties, doubts that are never fully transcended. But those difficulties are dealt with. They are the dues that one has to pay out here on the path towards self-actualization in community. For no individual is entirely self-made, and no one can succeed on the path alone. Our survival as humans requires, and has always required, that we rely on each other. But how, you might ask? I know you're asking this. Do we cultivate feelings of connectedness to communities that articulate ideas and values that we may oppose? How might we come to learn to rely on those who have behaved in harmful ways? Well, I don't know. But I can say this. Sometimes it helps to let our light shine with more brilliance and power, to give our gifts with more intention, and to simply love a little bit more. That can be one approach to dealing with these real dilemmas, and it's worth remembering as we attend to challenging circumstances, conditions, and people, that if one thinks of a lighthouse, the lighthouse shines its light. It does not control the destiny of a ship. All it can do is beckon, invite, and tempt. We can make our light contagious, however, by remembering what you 2017.5ers made right here on this hill in this place. You strengthened the Brown community by giving us your gifts and your light. Even when those gifts created dissent, generated tension, and led to protest, they expanded our awareness. Brown was enlarged by the gift of your light, and it was empowered by the challenges you brought. This is because Brown's fitness as an institution is marked by its capacity to change. Its stability as a community is grounded in its very flexibility, and it must constantly undergo revision and improvement to be what it should be. We are better as a community now than we were before you got here, because you brought us your gift You pushed us, you challenged us, and you made us better. This is part of your legacy, and I extend my gratitude to you for helping us to grow and for helping me to grow. 2 more quick points. Second thought I want to share is that an idea I've been tossing around a bit as I was thinking about this talk today. And it was linked to the first part about us being drenched in community. The point is this: before we can learn to trust each other in community, I think we have to be in proper relationship with ourselves. You know, one of the first songs I learned as a young lad was "This Little Light of Mine." You know how it goes. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Now, the second verse says, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. And the third verse says, all in my house, I'm gonna let it shine. But it's the fourth verse that's most interesting for me today, because out of all 5 verses, that's the only verse that expresses a negative. It says, I'm not gonna make it shine, I'm gonna let it shine. It's a crucial distinction. How are we to distinguish letting our light shine from making our light shine? Again, I'm not quite so sure. But I think we get closer to understanding what this distinction looks like, and it looks differently for each and every one of us, when we know ourselves more intimately and we commit to accepting ourselves in spite of our flaws and scars. It is likely the case that a prerequisite for the kind of transformative communities I mentioned you made today relied on you being transformed individuals who nourish this very kind of self-acceptance, a form of introspection that is ultimately outward looking. I want to remind you very quickly about the ways the college experience itself, at its best, may have played a role in helping you get into proper relationship with yourself. And on this point, still the second point, one thinks of teachers as co-conspirators of hope, enabling students to develop more self-awareness. If we think of teachers as having been wise guides for us while we were here to this kind of inner wisdom, then the meaning of things like course syllabi, tests, papers, and assignments shifts, right? Those become all opportunities for us to look deeper inward, not just challenges from professors forcing us to meet the requirements of some kind of academic standard, right? So to think of your college as a road to the self can shift your importance, your sense of the importance of what you got here. The many occasions, and there are far too many for me to list here, that we offered you to learn about yourself was our gift to you. It is now part of your cargo to be delivered to others. Third and final point. I want to say a few quick words about this category, graduate. I think of the term graduate as a particular kind of identity that one can earn. Considered in this way, graduate belongs to a cluster of terms like champion, citizen, artist, and maybe even teacher. These sorts of descriptive, identifying labels share 2 qualities. The first is that they're bestowed onto a person by another or a group. The second is that one must go through extensive processes before earning the label graduate, champion, citizen, teacher, artist, so forth. Now, my idealized view, the view I just put forward, of these kinds of labels is meant to generate questions, right? What does one have to do to earn the title of citizen? How does one become a champion, a teacher, an artist in what Professor Willis is saying? Well, the conventional answer, as you know, is that to become a citizen, one has to take a test. To become a champion, one has to win a tournament. To become a teacher, one has to earn a certificate, and so on and so forth. But you and I realize that this conventional way of thinking about these terms has serious limitations. For many of these terms many people demonstrate immense loyalty to the ideals of our nation, yet they have not passed the citizenship test. Others have never won a tournament, but they have surpassed all rivals, and we call them champs. There are masterful teachers that spark the desire to learn that have no certification. And there are amazing artists who have never sold their work. So I want to suggest to you that the best sense of the term graduate, 2017.5ers, just like the best sense of the term citizen, champion, artist, or teacher, reflects a set of actions that you do to enable and empower someone else to become a graduate. I don't know if that was clear, but you can check with me later. And we can talk about it. Another way to say it is, when you let your light shine in a way that allows someone, especially someone who may not have had the opportunity you had, to bring their gifts, let their light shine in community, and learn more about themselves while living in close proximity with people very different from themselves, then you have become a Brown graduate in the best sense of what it means to bear that title. You have given us much and are leaving us with your powerful legacy. Now we count on you to rely on each other, and we charge you to fulfill the promise of the hopes we now hand you. The global community may not know it, but it needs your gifts and your light. Go in either peace or rage, or somewhere in between, wherever the situation demands for you to be effective, and let your light shine. May our gratitude be your shield from this day onward. Carry on, 2017.5, carry on. Thank you.
See what I mean? So we're now to the final part of our program, but I just want to do one thing, which I actually forgot to do at the very beginning, that I like to do, and your comments reminded me. I would like us to take a moment for the class of 2017.5 to thank the people who are here to support them or who could not be here to support them but are supporting them from afar for all that they did to get them here. Could we give a round of applause to parents, family, grandparents, cousins, friends? Thank you. Thank you. We know, they know, that they wouldn't be here without you and your support. So now we come to the final part of the program where we present to you the students who will be completing their degrees this month. And to do that, we will be doing that with the help of Deans Shannon O'Neill and Chris Dennis, who will join us up here on stage. Now, as we announce your name, please come forward to receive a small memento of Brown. We're going to ask you, beg you, to hold your applause until the last student has crossed the stage. And we will, I think, proceed now with Dean Dennis reading the names. Thank you.
And thanks to all of my advising colleagues in the hall. Our epic advisors were with you at the beginning and we're with you today. First and foremost, Maya Falstick-Hahn. Clayton Eubank. Juliana Bradley. Stephanie Kellogg. Catherine Walker-Jacks. Isabella Levy. Yingying Jolie Yu. Emma Jersic. Hiba Halim. Erin McCluskey. Lucas Foster. Ivana Lizano Loaiza. Eva Unkara. Lindsay Gantz. Eleonora Saravale, Charlotte May, Timothy Vasseur, Jordan Lester, Margaret Mathieu, Jacob Feder, Seung-sub Wang, Dayung Hong, Carlene Nigudula, Nathaniel Parrott, Chen Yi, Thomas Caleb Merchant, Ellie Sawada, Yesenia Valverde, Lucas To Yuen Kuen, Michelle Lin, Kimberly Menora, Youngba Hokes, Joaquin Alvarez Batusta, Matthew Dang, Yu Mamambo, Monica Caperas, Augustus Seabrook, Christopher Owen Elia, Brianna Brees, Denise Ramirez, Areb Mohammadi, Amina El Tajahir, Kevin Martinez Argueta, Joseph Ficara, Isabel Green, Emma Willis, Renata Maurice, Haley De La Rosa, Frederick Mandela, Hyun Woo Kim, John McCrillis, Paulina Sandler, Michael Wicks, Drew Williams, Marco Hanna, Michael Demanche, Ella Cohen, Nicholas Curcio, Paul Sikorsky, Dikshant Ray, Kuraslin Mulvey, Howard Gonzalez Navarrete, Jonathan Hyde, Gary Hettinger, Michael Fitzhugh, Marcus Fitzhugh, Marcus Love, Janice Gann, Haesung Yoon. Paige Vance. Lydia Moog. Sophie Kasakove. Anna Kliegler. Ann Fosberg. Lisa Yeager. Elizabeth Borst. Will Tavlin. Patrick McMenamin. Saif Najjar. Dai Hyun Kim. Alexander Kim. Jacqueline Duart. The class of 17.5.
Thank you for holding your applause. Congratulations to the class of 2017.5. So before we conclude, I do want to take a moment to thank our musician, Ethan Wold, for the lovely music. Thank you. As well as the Brown Jabberwocks, Dean Shannon O'Neill, Wendy Sheridan from the Office of the Dean of the College, and Michelle Kalnan from University Events, along with the many deans who helped make today's ceremony so lovely. I don't know how many of you noticed all the Brown staff that came out today to celebrate this day with you, but I want from the podium up here just to offer my tremendous thanks to all the folks from the Office of the Dean of the College and Campus Life who are here with us today to celebrate with you. Thank you for being here. And now we will end in the traditional way with the singing of the alma mater. After the alma mater, the students will process out of the hall, and we ask everyone to remain standing until the recessional is complete. And then we invite you to meet your students in Sales Hall next door, where there's a reception immediately following the ceremony, and it's just to your left as you leave the building. So now I ask you all to rise for the alma mater.
Moments of youth's fleeting hours,
we've passed 'neath the shade of these.
Time